Warrior. Today we have a very special guest. Kelly Mallon Young is joining us, CEO, that would be Chief Operating Officer of Sisters Rising Worldwide. Kelly retired from a great career in sales, and she went on to form and give people hope through Sisters Rising Worldwide. And we're going to find out why. We have a lot to talk about here. I have a lot of questions for Kelly. But first, all of your information, of course, will be in the body of this video. And also, I want to give out the website, srw.org. And I am just enamored with you, Kelly, and your work. So let's jump right in. Welcome, Kelly Mallon Young, to the Warriors.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk today.
I'm very excited that you're making the time. It's very important that we share the important work of the sisters, or the power of none, as you like to say. But first, before we jump into all of that, I want to hear about you. Kelly, share with us some information, whatever you want to share as a jumping off point about yourself.
Simple girl from the Chicago area where I was raised. I come from 5 siblings. And me, myself, I have 3 boys, now adult boys. I've always been focused on giving back. I don't know if it started in University of Dayton, which is very communal and did a lot of programs at the university, but it's always been with me. And so when I was raising my boys, I had them involved in a lot of different things. And it was more things that we created where we found need, we just went. And then after I stepped out from working, I knew I had to get back into and be more of a career of giving back. So about after 3 years, the kids were all heading off to college. I decided to get I met Sister Irene and through my cousin who is a nun. And I started learning a little bit more about the nuns and what they were doing. And I said, these are powerful women doing powerful work, and I want to be a part of it. So I've dedicated the last 6 years in helping Sister Irene build her vision of Sisters Rising Worldwide.
Now, I have to say, Kelly, in my opinion, somebody is born with that in their heart, really wanting to be passionate, to give back. At least that's what I'm observing. And let me ask you now, because I have always been sort of railing, I don't know if that's the right word, about the nuns as a product of all girls Catholic school in New Jersey, mind you. I would always think, like, where is all of the support for the nuns? And then when I found out years later, they don't even get support from the church.
No.
And then I met you. So explain, what exactly is Sisters Rising Worldwide, and how did you get all this started? What was going through your mind, and how? Because it's a very big undertaking.
Right. We'll start with the nuns. There's 650,000 nuns around the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And they do not get financial support from the Catholic Church, which is a big thing, which people get or have this idea that they do and that they're supported for them. But really, the church is separate, and the women's work in the Catholic faith is really the ones that are out there doing God's work out around the world. As I said, I have a nun cousin, and she asked me and one of my blood sisters to come out for one weekend and help Sister Irene with this vision that she had. And Sister Irene, what she did is she was trying to find a database where all the sisters, were. Because all the different congregations are siloed, and then they have the language barrier. So they weren't connecting. So sometimes there could be sisters doing great work in the community right next to each other that could collaborate and be more effective, but they didn't even know that they were there. I like to do it like this. It's like a business. Could you imagine running a business and you have branch offices everywhere and they couldn't communicate? They couldn't share best practices. They couldn't learn from each other. It wouldn't be successful, right? So what Sister Irene wanted to do is go ahead and build this platform where all the nuns could communicate. They could share best practices. They could share resources. They could communicate their needs. And what I thought, the big trigger for me and why I decided to stay on past that one weekend I was dedicating, I said I would help, is because I kept on thinking the work that they're doing is so important. I mean, 80% of it is dealing with human trafficking. Like, if we don't start documenting all of the work that is going on, when the number of nuns in the northern hemisphere keeps declining, are we going to take so many steps back in social justice, right? Like, how do we track that information so we can continue this fight against social injustices around the world? And we needed a central database, and that's pretty much what Sister and Irene and I did for the first 3 years. We designed it, we raised the money for it, and we built it. So.
Mm. First of all, we live in a digital world. So
Right.
You were filling a void. This is the way I
Yeah.
look at it, of bringing, and I know a lot of nuns now, younger ones, they're very tech savvy,
Yeah.
and they've got their newsletters going out and this and that, and that's how they communicate. So this is a must. Second of all, you need to raise awareness, because when you shared with me 650,000, right? That's a huge number of women that can make a tremendous and do make a tremendous difference around the globe. And I think
Right.
that is something that, there's power in numbers, that old saying, something that has to be shared. So people are aware of this and people have to get involved, because we know the proof is in their work, right?
Right.
So they need
Absolutely.
to be supported, whether that's through donations, whether that's through volunteerism, sharing on, somebody's platform, Sisters Rising Worldwide, because I was unaware. And I don't like to say that to you, but I was actually unaware, except the fact that it bothered me knowing some nuns, they don't get support from the church. Can we go there for a second? Why is that? Do they just separate it out from the church? Like, I don't really understand that.
Yeah. I think Sister Irene would be best to answer that question. However, I just think that the church is more of the male hierarchy of the religion. So I would say if a nun is working for the church or is working at a school that is run by the church, things like that, then they will. But really what the sisters have done, sisters go into the communities that are struggling the most. So what they may do is they might be building schools. They might be building hospitals. And then they run these hospitals. And that's how they are getting their money, because they're building these needs. So for instance, the Mayo Clinic was started by a nun.
Who even knows that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
we got some fun facts going on.
but that's okay, because people are going to start, learning about this and learning where this good work is being done.
Yeah. And the fault of the nuns too is they're just so humble.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
They don't brag about their work. They just move on to the next people that need help. Right. So, for your audience, the nuns actually find the worst communities around the world. Like one nun was writing this thank you letter, like, thank you for helping us in our work in the darkest corners of the world. And that's really what they do. And there's usually only 1 or 2 nuns in that area. And the reason why they move in is they're really trying to understand the root cause of this injustice, because poverty can be caused by many different things. Like some people will look from the outside and like, oh, these people need shoes. Oh, these people need this. And really, until you move in there, you can understand exactly what is happening, right? Because it could be a gender inequality. It could be the lack of education. It could be a lack of healthcare, right? So people are getting sick, right? So there's all these different things. And until you move into those areas, you don't know. And what other nonprofits are starting to figure out is that going through the nuns and working with the nuns is the way they can be most effective. So we've partnered with a couple of different organizations and helping them find the nuns that are on the ground in these areas so they can be more, beneficial in their work.
I mean, that's the only way. We have a hashtag at the Warriors: community creates change.
Yeah.
Certainly while we plug away and push on legislation, that's another program.
No.
That's a separate program.
Right.
Support has to be boots on the ground.
Yes.
I can't necessarily go into a community or an impoverished, nation somewhere and have people even relate to us. But there's something universal about nuns
Right.
that can do that. And I'm also want to point out, with this work, I want to get into the human trafficking aspect of all of this.
Yeah.
I'm tired, Kelly, like putting the Band-Aid on the work. We know it's bad. We know it's escalating. We know it's horrible. Let's get to, as you pointed out, root causes. Let's get to supporting those boots on the ground. That would be the nuns, the sisters here, that are able to open it up and share with us that knowledge. So we, as different organizations, nonprofits, can do a better job with what we're equipped to do instead of just slapping on that Band-Aid. Because I'm seeing a lot of that going on. And I am totally against that. But let's get to the human trafficking. Give us the landscape. Let's start right here in the United States. Give
Hmm.
us your overall, whatever you want to say about the trafficking and the work of the sisters, you know of.
Well, let's talk some facts about human trafficking at first, right? So at any one time, there's 27.6 million people that are trafficked. Okay. There's 50 million people living in what's called modern day slavery. It's the most in the history. Only 1% of the people trafficked are ever rescued. And that is a stat which is just really hard to swallow, right? Like 1% are safe. I think that as a society, the more and more we talk about that, the more and more that number will go up. But the sisters are really, majority of the work is preventing the trafficking, right? But we do also have, in many different states, places where survivors can heal. And it's a lot more expensive to heal, a survivor of trafficking, than to prevent it. But the sisters are in all different angles of it. We're trying to work now with some corporations and start having them sponsor so we can go ahead and be more effective in getting the word out about human trafficking. The airports and the hotels have done a really good job, but now there's some other places anywhere that there's a public area. It can be a coffee shop. It can be a park. People are getting trafficked. And the one thing people don't realize, excuse me, is that people can be trafficked living underneath their own roof of their house. So there are some girls, middle school to high school age, that are being trafficked right now that live with their parents. And people are like, well, how can that happen? And it happens is it goes through a lot through manipulation, blackmailing. So there's a lot of different ways. So it is happening in every single zip code in the United States. I played pickleball for 24 hours to bring awareness to human trafficking. And it was great. Like afterwards, the stories I was hearing, people like, oh, well, you know what? The day after you finished, my daughter was with her daughter at a Target parking lot and almost got picked up from trafficking. Another one was telling me about their daughter that was at a movie theater that was on trafficking. I mean, it's happening everywhere. We all need to talk about it. And we all need to be aware of it. We shouldn't be scared. I don't want anybody to live in fear, but knowledge is power, and knowing what to look for is good, and having the number, the 800 number available, all that's important. So,
yeah, I mean, it's very basic, raising awareness. I mean,
yeah.
it just starts there. Let us talk about it. Don't be scared. I've had people say to me, I don't want to talk about it with my child or my teen or family member because that will make them alarmed and scared. And I'm like, no, they're seeing, especially with the internet, all of these things.
Yeah.
Anyway, in society, let us be, that warrior, that educator, that person to tell them, give them the facts. And also very important, resources.
Yeah.
People they start with, it's dark and ugly. So they tend to tune out. So, we got to capture them. I'm glad you said that about, as an example, a child can be trafficked and living at home with their parents, sleeping in their own bed. They are trafficked. It can happen online. I actually had somebody challenge me the other day, and I said, no, we have plenty of kids being trafficked right in their own homes, and they don't realize what this is. So it does start with raising awareness, education. The state of Florida, I don't know if you saw this, Kelly, just put out, they're going to be developing their own state human trafficking hotline.
Yeah.
Because the national hotline is so overwhelmed, and which I think is a great idea. What are your thoughts on that? I think every state should basically, or we should have some sort of, like we just had almost 2 years ago, the suicide prevention crisis lifeline, the 988. I think we should have, which I'm promoting, a 3-digit code for human trafficking. That would be easy for around the country. What are your thoughts on that? We have to make it easy for people.
Right. But once again, it's getting that knowledge out. I think it's absolutely important that every state, has its own hotline. Because yes, the national hotline does get overwhelmed, but it's how do you get that information out? I think it should be readily available. And when you're talking about, some people not wanting to share that information with their daughter to scare them, I actually think the opposite. I actually think it empowers them.
I do too.
It makes them stronger. It knows what to look for. And also too, it's just like, you're not going to get me. Like, I understand. I know what I'm looking for. I'm good. I'm, safe. And it doesn't mean being naive and stuff like that. Empowerment, knowledge is power. So.
Yeah, I'm really, I'm just so surprised though. Sometimes I deal with audiences that are a little reluctant. I know they're scared because again, the unknown is kind of scary. That will challenge me, when I say to them, it's not the white van. Yes, that happens. That traditional. It's not the pretty woman story of Julia Roberts that we see. But as you pointed out, it is the Target parking lot. It is your daughter might go to a pharmacy or something like that, or son. Tremendous problems with teen boys and sextortion, all online, happening.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I said,
It's all over. It's all over. And I know you're, inundated in this, and I am as well. But I really feel like, Kelly, it's like all over the place. Like you can't escape it.
The thing that makes me, well, I should say, I was going to say frustrated, but that wouldn't be the right word. It's everybody's fight. It has gotten so big.
Yes.
The sisters have been doing it for hundreds of years. They have been dealing and protecting people. But it's $150 billion industry now. We can't just put our head down. We need to take action. Like you need to get involved in whatever it is. Like we do, we say too, there's 650,000 nuns. If even like young people donated $5 a month, and if we had 650,000 people donating just $5 a month, you could put a huge dent in the human trafficking world. So everybody needs to do their part in whatever it may be, but everybody can do something. And that's the thing that along with getting the message out, it's what's your action going to be? What are you going to do to help? Because I don't have any daughters, but I have sons, and they, boys can be manipulated too. And it could be, a labor thing. It could be a sex thing. It could be anything. So get involved. It's important.
Well, I also think, Kelly, 2024, we live in a new kind of environment, a new country, a new world, and that it is absolutely, I don't like to use the word mandatory, but I'll use it, mandatory that we teach, children from a very young age, giving back to society. Right. Part and parcel of growing up is you give back. You pointed out $5, even if kids like gave $1, like starting, and then when you turn 18, $5, and it just keeps growing. We could have these different tiers. People have to speak up. People have to. There's so much disruption, but I have to point out, I have to say something. And this in no way, I don't want you to take it as a correction, but I am in shock. It was brought to my attention just last week. And of course, nobody was covering it at all. The new figure for human trafficking is just under $350 billion. And as a matter of fact, I posted this morning on Twitter with the study, and nobody's talking about it. So we've been giving out the figure, 150 billion and all that. It's actually approximately 350 billion. And I say whatever we know about, it's always much higher because this lives in the dark. So we don't even know. Give us, when you talk to some of the sisters, I know you deal with Sister Irene, like anything you want to reveal, like what do they say to you? How do they stay like on point? And so I'm not kidding. And they're like mental health. Do they ever reveal, or they're just always, because this is a lot to deal with, even for you, dealing with this. Because I have days, I would never admit it, but I'm admitting it to you. I'll feel weird. Like, and I won't, and I'm strong. And then I'll be like, oh, because I just worked with a survivor in a terrible environment. And that, is a reflection. It takes a toll. So how does everybody deal with this on your end?
I actually think the sisters network is so strong, and there's so much support and love. In my TED Talk, I talk about how fun they are and how you feel so good when you work with them. And it's true. So I do feel like they're always looking at the positive aspects of it and their ability to help them. So they're, if you don't really look so negative and you look at it as a puzzle and you're trying to solve it and you're trying to bring these people up, and it's that joy of lifting people up that they focus on, and they don't really focus on the negative that they can't control. They focus on what they control and how they can bring joy and hope to these people's lives. And it's something that's built in them because all of them are like that. All of them are just amazing. Going back to when you were talking about, which it's a different kind of angle that I've been looking at when you're talking about even donating $1, right? And doing your part. With mental health, such an issue too, when you are getting involved and you are helping and serving others, your mental health is better. I mean, we are naturally born to go ahead and help other people. It's in us. It's innately who we are as people. And so getting involved, we would maybe even help some of the mental health issues that we have around the world, right? I just think that that's a different kind of angle that I've been kind of looking at lately. Like, I do think it just makes you feel good to help other people. And, we should, as a country, focus more on that.
Well, we do. Look, we have a well-documented youth mental health crisis.
Yep.
We have a suicide crisis among children and teens nobody wants to talk about. We have,
Right.
We're partnered with Nurses United against human trafficking. The reports across the country are 9 to 17-year-olds, 40% of them showing up in emergency rooms, and this is shocking, are 11 and under with suicide ideation or trying. I mean, that is a shocking kind of number. And then we know, Kelly, adults, they're, I don't know, in the last few years, people are truly, I'm here in the middle of New York City, they're out of control. I mean, they're really the me for the most part.
Right.
The manners, I don't know where manners went. Again, this is a separate program, but that's a whole, but it's like, wow, it like went so fast. It kind of flipped for the most part. I really think the nuns, the sisters are like the backbone. And I don't mean like, to me, they're the celebrity, the influencer that we can bring forth as role models to show others, okay, this is the way it can be and should be. And I like how you point out, there are studies, many studies that show doing something for somebody else contributes greatly to one's own mental health.
Right.
And I'm trying to think, do you remember when you were a kid? Well, I don't know if you did it. Okay, we have to go to church every Sunday, church. But you always, at least I did, felt kind of good then when you left church. Like for some reason, you just felt a little uplifted or a little clean. I don't know, a little better. So that is something, we're working on, just totally giving back, whether it's a pair of socks or $1, the need is there. Now let's get into some of the projects the nuns do. And also here in the United States and around the globe, I know here, I can quote on, we do not have enough safe houses, places to put people, places to help them heal, because people have to realize, Kelly, as you know, it is not, you save somebody, patch them up. It is a lifelong trauma, all of this trafficking, which is why your piece with Sisters Rising Worldwide of getting in there, the intervention, the prevention, the education is so important, so we can not have as many victims of trafficking, but we still have to take care of all the ones that have been neglected. I know here in New York, we have 2 accredited safe house programs, 2.
Mm-hmm.
That is just unacceptable.
Right.
What do you have to say about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of go back to the sisters, are doing great work, but they can't do it alone. And we all need to get involved and stuff like that. And we all need, but I find it very interesting, the kind of work that they do come up with. Like we did in South Dakota when COVID happened and everything was locked down, like the churches and this, and some of the stores, the homeless had no place to go. So this sister developed what we call the coffee shop that was open from like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. where people could come in and then they, taught them different skill sets and financial stuff. And they had a place to sleep and stuff, and rehabilitated them. And they didn't ask questions. Like the one thing that, I'd love your audience to understand too, this has anything to do with really Catholic, it's about the sisters' work because they help everybody. They love without distinction. If somebody is on drugs, then they try to help them. If, whatever the situation is, the sisters meet them where they are at. Yeah. And like I said, that can be, well, there's so many different issues around the world, right? It's, the tribal community and they're helping them. You're right. The victims of trafficking, whether it is labor or sex trafficking. Yeah, we need safe places for these people to heal. There's a place that we helped up in Minnesota, and it was women that were beaten, domestic violence, tortured in some other countries, and rehabilitating them takes time, and it takes money. It takes, proper therapy to go ahead and heal these people and give them the ability to live, a fulfilled life, Lana. Yeah. So the more awareness we have about these issues, the more that we can help.
Yeah. And we also need, Kelly, companies to step up that want
Yes.
to partner to say, we will employ, and help train. Because what do you do with a person? They're getting on their feet, they're reclaiming their lives. What do they go to? We certainly don't want them to get sucked back into labor trafficking that we don't talk enough about, definitely the sex trafficking. So we have to then have a place for them to land.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's also a very important thing, that we have to get more companies involved. And in this environment, it's tough, but I believe it can be done. I don't know. We'll just unleash all the nuns on them to march in and say, I wish the nuns would. I understand. I deal with a lot of them here in New York, and they're just so lovely. But like, I wish they would get
Oh,
I wish they would get a
I
little.
will contradict you a little bit. I will
No,
contradict you a little bit.
I
They
know.
in the
I want them
United
to get a little tougher in public.
No, they are in the United States. They actually like pull money and get to board meetings, and they go against like Goldman Sachs for pay
Okay, good. I like this.
discrepancy,
I like this.
Kroger's against using bad farmers, McDonald's for obesity. So they do fight those fights at the corporate level. They are absolutely in there doing it, and they do that more in the States than in other parts of the world. And they're feisty, and do not back down, and they are very creative. When the Super Bowl, I might have the story a little bit off, but the Super Bowl is one of the number one places that people are trafficked at one time a year, and the nuns weren't being heard, so they pooled their funds together, and they bought a seat at the table for these hotels, and talking to them about the and what's happening, and how the trafficking is affecting, and how the traffickers work during these big events. And yeah, they got corporate attention. I'm actually working with two corporations while I'm proposing to work with them, because I do think human trafficking is an issue that everybody should be able to get behind and get supporting. And I feel that corporations that are more socially responsible, and that's what the sisters asked them, like, be financially responsible, but also be socially responsible. I think those companies you're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years, those are the ones that are going to skyrocket. Those are the ones that people are going to go ahead and back and want to be part of. The younger generations, they want social equity. So the corporations that are jumping on and doing that and making it known, they're gonna do better, I think, in the future.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Our Gen Z, we know from studies, they want this,
Yeah.
social responsibility, kind of social justice, whatever you want to call it, equity. I talk to a lot of them, and they talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
Even going as far as going into, I won't name, but a local, I'll say pharmacy chain. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I was with a couple, and they're really looking at the products to see where the product comes from, what the ingredients are, where that ingredient comes from,
For
because in
sure.
that country, the palm oils and stuff, and they have got women in the fields, and like that really woke me up. And this was about a little over a year ago, and I said, "Wow, we at the Warriors have to focus more on that as well, because that is our future. These are our young Americans. They are our future adults and leaders." And I got to get on top of that one more. People don't realize, even about beauty products,
Right.
what goes, the most we've heard lately, we've heard a lot about chocolate, maybe, that kind of thing. Let's talk about, what would you like if you had to, it's kind of a loaded question, leave the public listening right now, because we
Okay.
always want to have resources, take actions. What do you want them to know right now, June 3rd, 2024, on how they can make a difference and help here?
Well, I think there's a lot of different nonprofits around the world that are trying to do a really good job. I think Sisters Rising Worldwide has nailed it on the head in the fact that over 90% of everything that's donated goes directly to helping people. right? And I feel like young people are passionate about it, but they don't take action, right? And I feel like people need to start taking action and doing their research about nonprofits and finding those that they can back and get involved in changing the world, because it's not going to get any better unless people start getting involved and making a difference. I'm proud to work with Sisters Rising Worldwide. I love the fact that, you know, so much is going to helping others. And the work that we do, like I said, we don't discriminate against individuals. We help anybody in need. And they do it in a way that's very knowledge centric, right? And we only do programs that create systemic change. If a sister needs some beds because they have a lot more people coming to the hospital, we won't give them beds. We'll find out why they need so many beds.
Right.
And like, oh, it's up in the mountains, this water that they're drinking, everybody's getting sick. Okay, well, let's fix that water situation, right? So we're just creating systemic change in all the communities that we're touching. So we are making a difference in the world. So I think
that's
yeah.
excellent. I mean, that really is the definition of root causes,
Yep.
not slapping the Band-Aid on. Let's finish up with, I met you recently. I was so excited. Ending up in Central Park, where, you know, Capitol Police Officer Andrew Linder, 3,100 plus miles Pier to Park from out in California to Central Park. Kelly, I thought that was the most exciting thing. How did that all come about? And your involvement and his involvement, because I think that is something we have to still talk about. We have to still celebrate and get other people to do things like that.
Yeah, he gives me faith in the younger generation. He's 27. His crew was anywhere from 23 to 30 years old. And yes, they went across the country. He did it with a 15-pound weighted vest, which nobody's ever done before. But he's had this passion, you know, it's kind of said, it's in people, right, to make a difference. And he's always, like, even just as a little boy, like, wanted to put the bad people away, right? And he's had this passion to do things, and he's just gone to extremes to make a difference. So Andrew Linder, you guys all should look him up, Pier to Park. He's just an amazing gentleman. And yes, and that is where we met, in Central Park. And it was just great to see people coming together for this cause. Yeah.
And I loved it because, you know, I met Sister Irene there. You know, I met you. I heard about all of this. We had Lifeway Network, which I work with here in New York, 2 safe houses. And I saw all ages. And I saw enthusiastic young people, which, like you, Kelly, gave me, like, oh, yeah, we just have to bring them all in, give them a little bit, you know, engagement, encouragement. I know from focus groups we do with the Warriors, the kids want, when I say kids, it could be 30 and under, you know, they want to be with us. Like, they want us to listen to them. I'm trying to promote, we do a better job, you know, across the country in listening to them and taking seriously their concerns, kind of thing, because that is what they are worried about. And a reminder, they are the future adults and leaders of our country and around the globe. So we really have to work and mentor with them. So I was thrilled to see the work you're doing, the sisters are doing, the young people are doing. It really gave me a lot of encouragement that day, which I'm going to carry forward. You did an excellent TED Talk. I'm going to have all of this in the body of the video. So everybody has your information. They know where to donate. They know where to read up. We're urging everybody, get involved. I have to say, if there's one area, you pick something out there, Warrior, pick this, Sisters Rising Worldwide, srw.org. It's a simple website, chock full of information, something for everybody. Kelly, finish us up. What would you like to leave us with?
Oh, wow. You know, I think that everybody just needs to follow their heart and be willing to make sacrifices for others. And I think that you will see the world change in a more positive direction for everyone. And I think a lot of the evils that we have going on right now, if we come together, we'll make a difference. And like I said, I'm just really super excited to be involved with Sisters Rising Worldwide, and that it was a blessing that I had met Sister Irene. And yeah, if anybody wants to learn more, they can go ahead and reach me at kelly@srw.org and send me an email. Happy to answer any questions or, work with you.
There you go. That's what makes you a warrior. I'm going to put your email on the body of the video as well. But you know what? You truly are, Kelly. I'm so happy we met. I am learning about this. We can talk about it, and that you're really boots on the ground making a
Yeah.
difference, because I'm still a great believer. Block out all this disruption. If you deem it evil, whatever people are thinking, because there's so much good work really being
Right.
done. You might not hear about it, but now you're going to start hearing about Sisters Rising worldwide, because they are
Yeah.
doing fantastic work. So, Kelly Mallon Young, thank you for taking the time today, for
So,
joining us, for sharing the information, your expertise, your voice. We're going to continue all of this. So please promise me you'll come back again anytime you have any
love
announcements, anything. You just go, and those sisters just go. I want to see them at a board, in a boardroom, at a table.
it. Yeah.
I'm telling you that I want to see. So,
Yeah.
Kelly, wishing you a wonderful day and a week ahead. And please just realize I really consider you a top warrior. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye bye.